When I hear the word courage, I think big, right? Like saving someone from a burning building kind of courage. But these Ryan Holiday excerpts, they really got me thinking about a different kind of courage.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the courage to be yourself, even when it's scary, to stand out, speak your truth, even when you're afraid. Especially relevant these days, don't you think?
Totally. It's like Holiday is saying true courage. It's not just physical. It's tied into all those other virtues.
Yeah.
The Stoics, they were big on that, right? Courage, temperance, justice, wisdom, the cardinal virtues.
Right. And that reminds me of Florence Nightingale. 16 years she waited to answer her calling. 16, wrestling with her doubts. Makes you wonder, what are we putting off because we're scared? What could we achieve if we just, went for it?
It's easy to get stuck in our heads, though. But even the bravest people, they feel fear. They just don't let it stop them. They look at it logically, like Pericles did with his sailors during that storm, remember? They acknowledge the fear and then choose to act anyway.
That reminds me of that quote. Said it. Oh, right. James Maness. Never think that you are impotent. Choose how you respond. That's like agency in a nutshell, but easier said than done, right? Take public speaking, for example. Terrifies me. Just thinking about it. My palms are sweating.
See, and what's behind that fear? For you?
Oh, it's the judgment. All those eyes on me. Makes me feel so self-conscious.
But what if you focused on the message, not the audience? On connecting with that one person who needs to hear what you're saying?
Huh. That's actually a really good point. Change the perspective.
Exactly. Courage, it's not about not being afraid. It's about taking action anyway.
I like that. I'm writing that down. It's so easy to overthink things. And then on top of that, we've got all this pressure to conform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Holiday says, it takes guts to be yourself when everyone wants you to fit in.
He's got that great line, it doesn't matter who or how many come at you, you have to be you. It makes you think, what are we sacrificing to fit in? What parts of ourselves are we hiding?
Big questions. And that's what this deep dive is all about, right? Taking these ideas, these stories, and using them to understand ourselves a bit better. And who knows, maybe even work up the courage to be a little braver, a little more authentically us. It's funny, right? We talk about courage like it's this big dramatic thing. But reading Holiday, I'm realizing how much it relies on something much quieter.
Yeah.
Discipline.
It's that idea that courage is for the moment, but discipline, that's for the long haul. Courage might get you in the ring, but it's discipline that keeps you there, round after round.
I like that, the ring. Because, yeah, it's not always pretty, is it? Discipline, it's about those everyday choices.
Yeah.
No fanfare, just doing the work, even when no one's watching.
Exactly. And that's what I find so compelling about the Stoics, Their whole thing was about simplifying, stripping it down, focusing on what you can control. So relevant for us today with all the noise and distractions.
It's like they were way ahead of their time. They knew that real freedom, it wasn't about having tons of choices. It was about mastering yourself, your impulses, your desires.
Right. And they lived it, too. Remember that Lou Gehrig story, the baseball player? Chose his career over, well, partying. He knew that indulging in the moment would cost him in the long run. Talk about discipline.
It makes you think, are we really free if we can't even put down the phone or say no to that extra slice of cake, even when we know it's not good for us?
It's a question the Stoics were wrestling with all the time. Real freedom, for them it came from acting in line with your values, even when it's hard.
And speaking of hard, Holiday talks about this idea of hustling, taking action even when things are tough, like Reuben Carter, the boxer. Wrongly imprisoned for, 19 years? And he comes out stronger. That took some serious discipline.
Wow. Yeah, Reuben Carter, what a story. It shows you, even in the worst situations, we still have a choice. Let our circumstances control us, or find a way to control ourselves through action,
But there's a difference between just acting and acting strategically.
Right.
Right. It made me think of that part about Commodore Connor and General Taylor. Both in that war, but such different approaches.
Oh, yeah. Connor, he was all about brute force, just charging in. And Taylor, he understood that sometimes the most disciplined thing you can do is wait, strategize. And then when the time is right, you act.
It's funny how we usually think of discipline in such a physical way, like working out or sticking to a strict diet.
Right.
But Holiday takes it a step further with this idea of mental and emotional discipline.
Yeah, it's huge, especially now, right? I mean, think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information, notifications, everything. It's like our brains never get a break.
Exactly. And Holiday uses Queen Elizabeth as an example, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. What do you say?
Well, he talks about how she was able to stay so calm and collected, even under immense pressure.
I mean, talk about needing emotional discipline, right? She was constantly in the spotlight dealing with, world events.
I know. And she always seems so composed, so in control. Like, remember that story about her noticing the smallest details, like a missing soldier in a parade?
No way. She really paid attention like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Or like an extra musician in the orchestra. It just shows you how sharp she was, even with everything going on around her.
That's amazing.
Right. It makes you think about what we could accomplish if we could just harness that kind of focus.
Totally. But how do you even begin to train your mind like that?
Well, Holiday talks about how even George Washington struggled with his temper.
Really? I always picture him as being so level-headed.
Me too. But I guess it just goes to show you that everyone struggles with self-control, even the greats.
True. So what's the secret? How do we get better at this whole discipline thing?
Well, Holiday talks about the importance of focus and minimizing distractions, which is easier said than done, right? Especially these days.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't even imagine trying to focus with all the distractions we have now.
Right. He uses Beethoven as an example.
Beethoven, like
Yeah.
the composer.
Yeah. He created these incredible masterpieces in a world without, like, noise-canceling headphones or white noise machines.
Wow, that's wild. Think what he could have done with a good pair of noise-canceling headphones.
Seriously. But it makes you think about our own ability to focus, you know?
Yeah, definitely something to think about. So how does this all tie back to courage and justice, though?
Well, Holiday argues that you can't have true justice without personal integrity. And that takes courage and discipline to cultivate.
Right, like it's not enough to just be a good person in your own little bubble.
Exactly. He uses Harry Truman as an example. Here's a guy who had to make incredibly tough decisions. The atomic bomb, the Cold War, civil rights.
Yeah, those were some heavy issues with huge consequences.
Right. And Truman didn't shy away from them. He faced them head on, guided by his own moral compass, even when it was unpopular.
That takes guts, for sure.
It does. And it reminds me of that saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Ooh, that's a good one. Who said that again?
I'm not sure, actually. But
That's
it's true,
Jen.
right? It takes courage to speak up, to act, even when it's risky. Like Frank Serpico.
Serpico, the cop who exposed all that corruption.
Exactly. He put his own life on the line to do what he believed was right.
That's true courage right there.
It is. And his actions sparked change. You know, it led to reforms within the police department.
Wow, so one person really can make a difference.
Absolutely. And then there's Thomas Clarkson. He dedicated his life to ending slavery. Talk about an uphill battle.
I know, it's incredible to think about what he was up against.
I know, right? But he was persistent. Year after year, he chipped away at it, never giving up hope.
That's amazing. It really shows the power of commitment.
It does. And it's a great example of how small acts, done consistently over time, can lead to massive change.
So true. It makes you think about what we're willing to fight for, you know?
It really does. And how our actions today can ripple out and affect generations to come. And that's a pretty powerful thought to end on, don't you think?
Yeah.
That we all have the potential to make a difference in the world, no matter how small it may seem.
Absolutely. So much of what we talked about today comes down to choice. Choosing courage over fear. Choosing discipline over instant gratification. And choosing to act, even when it's hard, in order to create a more just world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's inspired you to think differently about courage, discipline, and the power we all have to make a positive impact on the world.